Chapter 1: The Groom Who Never Came on Time. I woke up before sunrise, long before my alarm rang. Today was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. Instead, it was the day I planned to end the biggest lie I had ever lived. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. "Noah, are you awake?" I picked it up and replied. "Me? Yeah." A second later, he called. "Please tell me you're already getting dressed," Noah said. "I am. You don't sound excited." "I stopped being excited weeks ago." He stayed quiet for a moment. "So, you're really going through with it?" I looked at the black suit hanging beside the closet. "Yes. You still have time to change your mind." "I already did. That's why I'm doing this." Noah let out a slow breath. "Emily has no idea, does she?" "No." "And nobody else?" "Nobody." After ending the call, I put on my suit slowly. Every button reminded me of another promise Emily and I had made. Every promise now felt empty. I stared at myself in the mirror. "I almost believed forever," I whispered. An hour later, I got into my car. The church was only 20 minutes away. I made sure it would take much longer. Instead of driving normally, I slowed down at every road. I stopped for every red light, even when I could have turned. I pulled into a gas station and bought a bottle of water I didn't even want. I wasn't late because of traffic. I was late because I wanted to be. My phone kept vibrating. Emily calling. I ignored it. Another call. Ignored. Another. Ignored again. Finally, Noah called. "You're causing a panic." "I know. Emily keeps asking where you are." "What did you tell her?" "I said maybe traffic." I smiled sadly. "Good. You still have time to stop this." "No, Ethan. I already lost her, Noah." "You don't know that." "I do." Silence filled the call. Then he asked quietly, "When did you know?" I tightened my grip on the steering wheel. The first lie wasn't big. What was it? She said she was working late. And she wasn't. "You checked." "I didn't at first." My chest tightened as the memory returned.
I trusted her.
What changed? Everything. I remembered standing outside her office one rainy evening with coffee in my hands. She never came out. Later she told me she had worked until midnight. But the security guard had locked the building hours earlier. That was the first crack. After that came the hidden phone. The smile whenever a message appeared. The screen turning dark whenever I walked into the room. The canceled dinners. The forgotten anniversaries. The excuses. I kept telling myself I was imagining things. I said, "Because you loved her." "I loved her more than I loved myself." Noah sighed. "I hate seeing you like this. I hate becoming this person." "You aren't cruel." "I hope not." Another call flashed across my screen. Emily. Again. I watched it ring until it stopped. A message appeared. "Emily, please answer. Everyone is asking where you are." I locked the phone without replying. The church bells echoed faintly in the distance. I was getting close. Another flashback hit me. Emily laughing as we picked our wedding cake. "I can't wait to marry you," she had said. Back then, I believed every word. Now those words felt like someone else's memory. Noah spoke again. "Guests are arriving." I figured. "Your mother looks worried." "I know. Emily keeps walking to the entrance every few minutes." I closed my eyes. "Is she scared?" "Honestly, yes. She looks terrified." I nodded to myself. For months I had lived with questions. Where was she? Who was she texting? Why had she changed? Now she was the one living with questions. I drove the final mile even slower. The church finally came into view. Beautiful flowers lined the entrance. White ribbons danced in the wind. Cars filled the parking lot. People stood outside checking their watches. They had no idea what today would become. I parked beneath a large oak tree across from the entrance. My phone rang again. Emily. I watched her name glow across the screen before it disappeared. Then another message came. "Please, tell me you're okay." I looked through the windshield toward the church doors. Somewhere inside, The woman I had once dreamed of spending my life with was waiting for me. She believed I was simply late. She had no idea that every passing minute was my answer. I rested both hands on the steering wheel and took a long breath. My heart still hurt. I still loved the woman I thought she was. But I couldn't marry the woman she had become. I looked at the church one last time and whispered softly, "Now it's your turn to wonder how betrayal feels." Chapter 2. The Truth Hidden Behind a Smile. I sat inside my car, staring at the church doors while another call from Emily flashed across my screen. I let it ring until the silence returned. My hands rested on the steering wheel, but my mind drifted back to the day my entire world cracked apart. It had started with one simple mistake. Emily had left her phone on the kitchen counter while she was taking a shower. I had never touched her phone before, not once. Then the screen lit up. A message appeared. "Daniel, I already miss you. Just survive the wedding, and we'll finally be together." I froze. First I laughed. "No," I whispered. "This has to be a joke." Another message arrived. "Daniel, you'll look beautiful in that dress, even if you're marrying the wrong man." My hands began shaking. I didn't want to unlock her phone. I didn't want to become the man who searched through someone else's private life. But something inside me already knew. The passcode was my birthday. I opened the messages. Every word felt like another knife. Pictures, heart emojis, late-night conversations, plans for vacations, dreams about a future that didn't include me. Then I reached the message that destroyed everything. "Emily, after the wedding, I'll end it quietly. Nobody can blame me if I try first." I stopped breathing. She wasn't marrying me because she loved me. She was protecting her perfect image. The bathroom door opened. I locked the phone and placed it exactly where I had found it. Emily smiled at me. "Morning." I forced myself to smile back. "Morning." She kissed my cheek. "I love you." Those 3 words had never sounded so empty. For 3 days I barely slept. I kept asking myself the same question. Maybe I'm misunderstanding. I wanted an explanation. I needed one. Instead of accusing her, I called Noah. He answered immediately. "What's wrong?" "I think Emily is seeing someone." "What?" "I found messages." "You sure?" "I wish I wasn't." "Talk to her." "What if I'm wrong?" "You don't sound wrong." "I need proof." There was a long pause. Then Noah spoke quietly. "I know someone." "A lawyer?" "No." "Who?" "A private investigator." I hated the idea, but I hated living with doubt even more. The next afternoon, I met Grace Mitchell. She walked into the coffee shop carrying a thin black folder. She shook my hand. "You must be Ethan." "I am." "You sounded heartbroken on the phone." "I still hope I'm mistaken." She looked directly into my eyes. "I'll find the truth. Whatever it is, especially if it hurts." I nodded. "I just want honesty." She accepted the case without another question. The longest week of my life began. Every evening, Emily smiled at me. Every morning, she kissed me goodbye. Every lie became easier for her. Every smile became harder for me. 7 days later, Grace called. "We need to meet." Her voice told me everything. I drove to her office without saying a word. She placed the same black folder on the desk. "I'm sorry. I didn't open it. I need you to tell me." She took a slow breath. "Emily has been meeting Daniel Reed for almost 5 months." I closed my eyes. Grace continued gently. "They've stayed in hotels together." She slid photographs across the table. "There are restaurant receipts." Another file. "Private apartment visits." Another file. "Phone records." Another file. Then she pressed a small recorder. Daniel's voice filled the room. "When this wedding is over, you'll finally be free." Emily answered softly. "I know. Ethan deserves better, but I can't destroy my reputation now." Daniel laughed. "We'll wait one day, then everyone will believe you tried." The recording ended. I couldn't speak. Grace quietly pushed a box of tissues toward me. "I've seen many cases like this." I shook my head. "No." "What?" "Not like this." She stayed silent. I trusted her with everything. I'm sorry. I stared at the photographs. Every picture erased another memory. Every recording buried another dream. Finally, I whispered, "Thank you." Grace looked surprised. "You don't seem angry." "I am." "What will you do?" "I don't know yet." She closed the folder. "Whatever you choose, don't let anger make the decision." I carried the evidence home. That night, Noah came over. He looked at my face and immediately understood. "It's true." I handed him the folder. He flipped through the pages. His expression turned cold. "You need to cancel the wedding." "I will." "No, expose her." "I won't." "Ethan, everyone deserves to know." "They will." "How?" "They'll learn at the right moment." He frowned. "What are you planning?" I looked out the window. "I'm not giving her another argument." "What does that mean?" "I won't scream." "You won't confront her?" "No." "You won't throw the evidence in her face?" "No." "Then what?" I took a deep breath. "I'll let silence speak louder than anger." Noah stared at me. "I don't understand." "You will." I closed the folder and held it tightly against my chest. From that moment forward, I stopped preparing for a wedding. I started preparing for my final goodbye. Chapter 3. Every minute felt like justice. I stayed inside my car and watched people walk in and out of the church. Every passing minute made my phone ring again. I didn't answer a single call. Emily called. Then my mother. Then my uncle. Then Emily again. I placed the phone face down on the passenger seat. A message from Noah appeared. "Noah, everyone is asking where you are." I typed back. "Me. What about Emily?" A few seconds later, another message arrived. "Noah. She's trying to smile, but she's falling apart." I stared through the windshield. For months I had smiled while falling apart. Now it was her turn. Another text came. "Noah. Richard just asked if you had an accident." I replied. "Me. What did you tell him?" "I said I couldn't reach you either." I leaned back in my seat. I wasn't enjoying her pain. I was remembering mine. Every unanswered question. Every sleepless night. Every fake smile I had forced onto my face. Another message buzzed. "Helen is talking to Emily now." I imagined the scene inside. Helen probably held Emily's hands. "Sweetheart?" She would ask. "Did you two argue?" Emily would shake her head. "No." "Then why isn't he here?" I don't know." The thought made my chest tighten. I never wanted to hurt her parents. They had always treated me like family. My phone vibrated again. Noah had sent another update. "Richard looks worried. He's calling hospitals." I closed my eyes. "I'm sorry," I whispered. Not to Emily. To the people who had loved me honestly. Another call appeared. Richard Carter. I watched it ring until it stopped. A voice inside me begged me to answer. Another voice reminded me of the recordings. I listened to the second voice. A new message arrived. "Emily keeps checking the entrance every 30 seconds. I smiled sadly. That had been me for months. Waiting, wondering, hoping, only to be disappointed again. Another update came. "Guests are whispering." I could almost hear them. "Where's the groom? Did something happen? Is he okay?" Nobody knew the truth. Not yet. My phone rang again. "Emily." I let it ring. Then a text arrived. "Please answer. I'm scared." I read it twice. Scared. That single word echoed through my mind. I remembered sending her a message 2 months earlier. "Can we talk tonight? Something feels wrong." She had answered hours later. "I'm busy." I remembered waiting outside a restaurant after she canceled dinner. I remembered buying flowers she never saw. I remembered lying awake while she claimed she had fallen asleep early. Now she wanted answers. I had wanted answers too. Another message from Noah interrupted my thoughts. "Richard and Helen just pulled Emily into a side room." I replied, "Can you hear anything?" A minute passed. Then his response appeared. "Not everything." Another message followed immediately. "Richard asked if she's hiding something." Then another. "She keeps saying she doesn't know why you're late." I lowered my head. That part was true. She really didn't know. For once, I was the one keeping the secret. Another update appeared. Helen is crying now. That hurt more than I expected. I whispered, I'm sorry. Not because I regretted my decision. Because innocent people were caught in the middle. My phone buzzed again. Daniel is here. I stared at the screen. Where? I asked. Back row. He keeps looking around. I imagined his face. Confident. Calm. Maybe even excited. Then another message arrived. Actually, not anymore. What happened? He looks nervous. I smiled without realizing it. Maybe he was wondering whether I knew. Maybe he was afraid I would walk inside holding proof. Maybe he was finally experiencing uncertainty. The same uncertainty that had followed me for months. Another update came. Emily is crying now. I looked toward the church doors. People walked in. People walked out. Nobody smiled anymore. The celebration had become confusion. Noah called. I answered this time. Ethan, I'm here. You should see this. Tell me. Emily keeps asking if you've found out. My heart skipped. What exactly did she say? She asked me, did Ethan discover something? I closed my eyes. So she knows. I think she does. What did you tell her? I said I had no idea what she meant. Good. Ethan. Yeah. I've never seen her this scared. Neither had I. For the first time since discovering the truth, I realized something. I didn't want revenge anymore. I didn't want to scream. I didn't want to humiliate her in front of hundreds of people. I didn't even want her to suffer forever. I only wanted her to feel what I had felt. The doubt, the fear, the endless questions. Nothing more, nothing less. Noah spoke softly. So, what's next? I looked at the sealed envelope resting beside me. Inside it were the photographs, the hotel records, the recordings, and one final letter. I picked it up carefully. My goodbye, I whispered. Noah stayed silent. Then he asked, Are you ready? I looked at the church one more time. The panic inside those walls had replaced the happiness that was supposed to fill them. Watching it from a distance didn't make me feel powerful. It made me feel free. Yes, I answered quietly. I'm finally ready. Chapter 4, My Final Gift. I held the sealed envelope in my hands and stared at it for several seconds. Everything I wanted to say was inside. Every question had an answer. Every lie had proof. Every dream we had built together ended with the papers resting on my lap. My phone rang again. Emily. I let it stop on its own. Then Noah called. I answered immediately. Ethan, I'm here. What do you want me to do? I looked at the envelope one last time. I need you to come outside. Now? Yes. I'm on my way. I watched the church doors open a few moments later. Noah stepped outside, looked around the parking lot, and finally spotted my car beneath the oak tree. He walked toward me with quick steps before opening the passenger door. He sat down and looked at my face. I've never seen you this calm. I've cried enough. He noticed the envelope. So, this is it? Yes. He picked it up carefully. Everything. Everything. He looked at me. Are you absolutely sure? I nodded. If I walk into that church, people will remember shouting. And if you don't, they'll remember the truth. He slowly opened the envelope. Inside were several photographs, hotel records, phone logs, a flash drive, my wedding ring, and one folded letter. Noah swallowed hard. You wrote all this? Last night. You want me to give it directly to Emily? Only to her. What if she refuses to read it? She won't. He unfolded the smaller note resting beside the ring. He read it aloud. You stopped choosing me long before today. Noah closed his eyes. That hurts. It should. He picked up the wedding ring. Are you sure you want to leave this behind? I don't need a reminder of broken promises. He slipped everything back into the envelope. What happens after this? I drive away. Without seeing her? I've already seen enough. He rested his hand on my shoulder. I'm proud of you. I'm not proud. No, I'm just tired. He nodded slowly before stepping out of the car. I'll be back. I watched him walk toward the church entrance. My heartbeat grew louder with every step he took. The church doors opened, then closed. Now there was nothing left for me to do except wait. Minutes passed. Each one felt longer than the last. Then my phone vibrated. A message from Noah. She has the envelope. I stared at the screen. Another message appeared. She's confused. A minute later. She's opening it. I leaned back and closed my eyes. I could almost picture her face. She would see the photographs first, then the reports, then the recordings. Finally, my letter. I imagined her unfolding the pages with shaking hands. Emily, it began. I wanted to marry the woman I fell in love with, not the stranger you became. Another vibration interrupted my thoughts. Nobody is speaking. Then another. She's reading. Another. She's crying. I took a slow breath. Not because I felt happy, because I finally felt heard. Another message arrived. Richard just picked up one of the photographs. Then another. Helen is crying. I lowered my head. I'm sorry, I whispered. Those two never deserved this. Another update came. Guests are passing the papers around. I imagined hundreds of silent faces. No gossip. No laughter. Only truth. Another vibration. Daniel is leaving. I opened my eyes. Did anyone stop him? I typed. No. Another message followed. He kept his head down and walked out the back. I almost laughed. The man who had stolen my future couldn't even face the room. Coward. Another text arrived. People know what happened now. I replied. What are they saying? Noah answered quickly. Nobody is blaming you. Another message followed. They're blaming the lies. I looked through my windshield toward the church. The doors remained closed. The wedding music had stopped. The celebration was over. A few moments later, Noah called. I answered. It's done, he said quietly. Did she finish the letter? Yes. What happened? She dropped the ring. I closed my eyes. And she kept saying your name. I didn't answer. Ethan, I'm listening. She wanted to come outside. Did she? No. Why not? I told her you were gone. I looked at him through the windshield as he stepped outside the church. He stood near the entrance while speaking into the phone. You really are leaving? Yes. Without one last conversation? The letter said everything. You don't think she'll regret this forever? That's no longer my burden. He stayed quiet. Then he smiled sadly. You know something? What? I think this is the strongest thing you've ever done. I don't feel strong. You don't have to. I started the engine. The sound filled the quiet afternoon. Noah stepped away from the entrance and watched my car. Drive safely, he said. I will. And Ethan? Yeah. I hope someday you find someone who chooses you every single day. I smiled for the first time in months. So do I. I ended the call. I looked at the church one final time. I had arrived late on purpose. I had left without saying goodbye. Yet somehow I had finally spoken the truth. As I drove away, the weight I had carried for months slowly disappeared. For the first time since discovering Emily's betrayal, my broken heart no longer felt empty. It finally felt free. Chapter 5, starting over while she fell apart. I didn't look back after leaving the church. I kept driving until the city disappeared behind me. My phone stayed on silent, and for the first time in months I didn't care who was calling. My past was behind me, and I refused to carry it any farther. 3 days later, I stood inside a small apartment in Seattle with 2 suitcases and a heart that still felt broken. I looked around the empty living room and whispered, "This is where I begin again." The words sounded strange, but they also sounded possible. A week later, Noah called. "How's Seattle?" "Quiet." "That's good. I think I needed quiet." He laughed softly. "You definitely did." After a short silence, he asked, "Do you want to know what happened after you left?" I closed my eyes. "Tell me." "Emily tried calling you more than 50 times. I know. She cried all day." I I took a slow breath. And she kept saying she never thought you'd leave like that. I already left months before the wedding. I know, he sighed. She just didn't notice. I changed the subject. I'm looking for work. You'll find it. I have to. You always do. After ending the call, I spent weeks attending interviews. Some went well. Some didn't. Eventually, I accepted a position at a respected architecture firm. The work was difficult. That was exactly what I needed. Every new project kept my mind busy. Every long day left me too tired to replay old memories. Even then, the pain refused to disappear completely. One afternoon, my manager introduced me to a woman waiting in the conference room. Ethan, this is Olivia Bennett. She smiled and shook my hand. I've heard good things about you. I hope they're true. She laughed. I think we'll get along. Over the following months, Olivia became more than a senior architect. She became my mentor. One evening, after everyone else had gone home, she noticed me staring at an unfinished design. You've been looking at that drawing for 20 minutes. I'm stuck. No. I looked at her. You're distracted. She wasn't wrong. She pulled up a chair. Coffee? I won't say no. A few minutes later, she handed me a warm cup. Then she asked, who broke your heart? I almost dropped it. Is it that obvious? Only to people who've survived the same thing. I stayed silent. She smiled kindly. You don't have to tell me everything. I almost got married. Almost. It ended on the wedding day. She nodded without asking for details. I'm sorry. I survived. You did. She leaned back. Can I give you one piece of advice? Please. Never build your future around proving someone wrong. I frowned. What should I build it around? She smiled. Proving yourself right. Those words stayed with me long after that conversation ended. From that day forward, I stopped wondering whether Emily regretted losing me. Instead, I started asking myself what kind of man I wanted to become. I worked harder. I studied longer. I accepted every challenge. Nearly 2 years passed. One afternoon, Olivia walked into my office carrying a folder. I have an idea. I'm listening. You should start your own company. I laughed. I'm not ready. She placed the folder on my desk. That's fear talking. What if I fail? What if you don't? I looked at the business plan she had prepared. You really believe I can do this? I wouldn't waste my time if I didn't. A month later, I signed the papers. My architecture company officially opened its doors. It wasn't large. It wasn't famous. But it belonged to me. That evening, I called Noah. I finally did it. You sound happy. I think I am. I'm proud of you. Thanks. He hesitated. Do you want another update? I already knew who he meant. I thought for a moment. Go ahead. Daniel's company collapsed. What happened? Bad investments. I stayed quiet. He left Emily almost immediately. I looked out my office window. So she wasn't the love of his life. No. What happened to her? Most of her friends disappeared. I didn't answer. Her coworkers found out about everything. And she lost a lot of respect. I closed my eyes. Noah continued carefully. She also lost her job. I felt something unexpected. Not happiness. Not satisfaction. Only sadness. I don't want this. I know. I never wanted her life destroyed. You didn't destroy it. Silence filled the call. Finally, I said, she made her choices. Exactly. Another few months passed. My business continued growing. New clients arrived every week. My confidence slowly returned. One evening, Olivia stopped by my office. You look different. In a good way? She smiled. You finally stopped carrying someone else's mistakes. I laughed softly. I think you're right. She pointed toward the city skyline outside my window. Success isn't revenge. I know. It's freedom. I nodded. I finally understand. That night, I sat alone in my office after everyone had gone home. I thought about Emily. I thought about Daniel. I thought about the church. None of those memories controlled me anymore. Life had moved forward. So had I. Karma had done its work without my help. I never needed revenge. All I needed was the courage to leave, the patience to heal, and the determination to build a life that no betrayal could ever take away from me again. Chapter 6: The Woman I Never Expected. Almost 3 years had passed since I walked away from my wedding. My company had grown beyond anything I imagined, and one morning I received an invitation to speak at a business conference in Seattle. When I finished my presentation, people applauded. I smiled, thanked everyone, and stepped off the stage. A woman approached me with a notebook and a recorder. "Mr. Walker?" I smiled. "You can call me Ethan." She laughed. "Then you have to call me Sophie." "I can do that." She held out her hand. "I'm Sophie Adams. I write for the Seattle Business Journal." I shook her hand. "It's nice to meet you. I enjoyed your speech." "Thank you." She tilted her head. "You talked a lot about rebuilding after failure." "I did. But you never explained what happened." I smiled politely. "Some stories take longer to tell." She nodded. "I understand." Then she surprised me. "I'm not asking because I want gossip." I looked at her. "I'm asking because you sounded like someone who survived something." Her words caught me off guard. "I did." She pointed toward a quiet corner of the lobby. "Would you mind answering a few questions?" "Not at all." We sat across from each other with 2 cups of coffee. She turned on her recorder. "My first question is simple. I'm listening. What does success mean to you now?" I thought for a moment. "It means sleeping peacefully." She smiled. "That's different." "It wasn't always." "What changed?" "I stopped chasing people's approval." She wrote something in her notebook. "Second question." "Go ahead." "If you could speak to the version of yourself from 3 years ago, what would you say?" I looked out the window. "I'd tell him that losing the wrong person isn't losing everything." She stopped writing. "That's beautiful." "It was expensive advice." She looked confused. "It cost me my heart." She didn't ask for details. Instead, she quietly turned off the recorder. "We don't have to continue." I looked at her. "Why?" "Because I think that question hurt." It did. "I'm sorry." For some reason, I trusted her. "I was supposed to get married." She stayed silent. "The wedding never happened." "I'm sorry. My fiancé betrayed me." Sophie didn't interrupt. She simply listened. When I finished, she quietly asked, "How long did it take before you smiled again?" I laughed softly. "Longer than I expected." "But you did." "I did." She smiled. "I'm glad." Before leaving, she handed me her business card. "I'd like to interview you again someday." "I'd like that." A week later, she called.
I owe you lunch.
I laughed. "You owe me. I forgot to buy coffee last time." "I don't remember agreeing to that." "You are now." I couldn't help smiling. "Fine." During lunch, we talked about everything except my past. Books, travel, architecture, her journalism career. Hours passed without either of us noticing. As we walked outside, she asked, "Can I ask something personal?" "You can try." "Are you afraid of trusting people now?" I answered honestly. "Yes." She nodded. "I would be too." "You don't think it's unreasonable?" "No." She smiled gently. "I think healing has its own timetable." That sentence stayed with me. Over the next few months, we became friends. Sometimes we had coffee. Sometimes we walked through the city after work. Sometimes we spent hours talking without looking at our phones. One evening, she looked at me and smiled. "You're quieter than most people." "I think too much." "What do you think about?" I laughed. "Everything. Especially the future. And I'm afraid of repeating the past." She didn't tell me I was wrong. Instead, she asked, "Do you believe every person tells the same story?" "No." "Then why do you expect every ending to be the same?" I didn't have an answer. Weeks later, she invited me to an outdoor concert. I almost said no. Then she smiled. "It's okay if you're not ready." Those words mattered. She wasn't trying to convince me. She wasn't trying to change me. She simply respected my pace. I surprised both of us. I'd like to go. The evening was peaceful. As we walked beside the water afterward, I finally asked her something. Why are you so patient with me? She looked ahead before answering. Because nobody heals by being rushed. I stayed quiet. She continued. You don't owe me anything. I know. I'm happy just getting to know you. For the first time in years, my heart felt calm instead of guarded. A few days later, Olivia noticed the difference. She smiled. Someone finally made you laugh. I smiled back. Maybe. Is she kind? Very. Does she make you pretend to be someone else? No. Olivia nodded. Then don't let fear chase away something honest. That evening, I met Sophie for dinner. She looked at me and asked, What's on your mind? I took a deep breath. I'm scared. Of me? No. Then what? Of believing in love again. She reached across the table but stopped before touching my hand. I won't ask you to trust me today. I looked at her. I'll earn it tomorrow. I smiled. And the day after? She laughed softly. And every day after that. For the first time since walking away from my wedding, I realized healing wasn't forgetting what happened. Healing was choosing not to let yesterday decide who I could become tomorrow. Chapter 7, Her Last Chance. 3 years had changed almost everything. My business was thriving. My mornings no longer began with pain, and my nights no longer ended with unanswered questions. I had finally built a life that felt peaceful instead of fragile. One rainy afternoon, I walked out of my office carrying my laptop. Then I stopped. Emily was standing across the street. For a moment, neither of us moved. She looked nothing like the woman I remembered. The confidence was gone. The bright smile had disappeared. Her shoulders were lowered, and her eyes carried the weight of years of regret. She took one slow step toward me. Ethan. I stayed silent. I didn't know if you'd stop. I almost didn't. She nodded as if she expected that answer. I've been waiting for 2 hours. You could have called. I didn't think you'd answer. You were right. She looked down before speaking again. Can we talk? I hesitated. 5 minutes. She gave a small, grateful nod. Thank you. We walked to a nearby park and sat on opposite ends of a bench. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Finally, she broke the silence. You look happy. I am. I'm glad. I looked at her. You didn't come here to talk about me. She smiled sadly. No. Another long silence followed. Then she whispered, I'm sorry. I didn't respond. She wiped away a tear. I know those words can't fix anything. No. I still needed to say them. I nodded once. I've spent 3 years thinking about that day. So have I. I hated you at first. I looked at her. I blamed you for leaving. She laughed bitterly. Then I realized I had already left long before you did. Those words hit harder than I expected. She continued quietly. I kept asking myself why I ruined everything. I waited. It wasn't because you weren't enough. I stayed silent. It was because I wasn't. Her voice trembled. I wanted attention. Another tear rolled down her face. I wanted people to admire me. She looked away. I wanted everything. And I lost everything. The wind carried several leaves across the path between us. I thought Daniel loved me. I didn't interrupt. He only loved the excitement. She laughed at herself. The moment his business failed, he disappeared. I nodded slowly. I heard. I'm sure you did. She looked at me. I deserved it. I answered honestly. I never wished that on you. I know. I only wanted the lies to end. She covered her face for a moment before speaking again. I kept your letter. I looked at her. I've read it hundreds of times. Neither of us spoke. Finally, she whispered. Every word was true. I remembered writing that letter. I remembered folding it beside my wedding ring. I remembered driving away. She looked at me with red eyes. I destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me. I took a slow breath. You destroyed our future. She nodded. I know. Another silence settled between us. Then she asked the question I had expected from the moment I saw her. Is there any chance? She stopped herself. I waited. She gathered her courage. Could we start over? The question hung between us. For one brief moment, I remembered the woman I had proposed to. I remembered our first apartment, our late-night conversations, the way she laughed when we cooked together, the future we had planned. Then another memory replaced it. The hidden messages, the hotel records, the recordings, the nights I questioned my own worth, the mornings I smiled while pretending nothing was wrong, the church, the envelope, the ring. I looked at her. I forgave you. Hope filled her eyes. Then I continued. But forgiveness isn't the same as going back. Her smile slowly disappeared. I know I don't deserve another chance. This isn't about what you deserve. Then what is it? It's about what we lost. She lowered her head. I can't rebuild trust that died years ago. She wiped away another tear. I'd spend the rest of my life trying. I believe you. She looked surprised. You do. I think you're telling the truth. Then why? Because some things can be repaired. I paused. And some things become lessons. She quietly cried. I hate that I became your lesson. I smiled sadly. So do I. She looked at me one last time. Is there someone else? I thought of Sophie, her patience, her honesty, the peace she brought into my life. Yes, Emily nodded. I hope she knows how lucky she is. I think I'm the lucky one. A faint smile crossed her face. I'm glad you found happiness. I'm glad you finally found honesty. She laughed softly through her tears. I guess we both needed different things. I think so. She stood. So, this is really goodbye. I stood beside her. It already was. She looked into my eyes. Thank you. I frowned. For what? For leaving. I didn't expect that answer. If you had married me that day, I would have kept lying until I destroyed both of us. I nodded quietly. I'm sorry. I know. She extended her hand. I shook it gently. No anger. I smiled. No anger. No hatred. No. She took a deep breath. I'll carry this regret forever. I looked at her one final time. Then let it make you a better person. She nodded. I will. Without another word, she turned and walked away. I watched until she disappeared around the corner. For years, I believed closure would feel dramatic. Instead, it felt quiet. I had finally heard the truth I once begged for. And I had finally learned that loving someone once did not mean they still belonged in my future. Some people deserve forgiveness. Not everyone deserves another chance. Some doors, once closed with honesty, should never be opened again. Chapter 8: My Real Wedding. 1 year passed faster than I expected. Life had become peaceful. My business continued growing. Sophie remained by my side through every success and every difficult day. And for the first time in many years, my future no longer frightened me. Then another wedding morning arrived. This time, I smiled when I opened my eyes. My phone rang. I answered immediately. Noah laughed before saying anything. Please tell me you're already awake. I've been awake for an hour. Good. I'm not making the same mistake twice. He laughed louder. I was about to remind you. I know. So, no dramatic entrance today? Definitely not. No sitting in the parking lot? No. No disappearing? I smiled. Not a chance. He laughed again. I like this version of you. So do I. An hour later, I stood inside the groom's room wearing my suit. Everything felt different. The silence wasn't heavy. My heart wasn't racing with fear. I wasn't wondering whether someone was lying to me. Someone knocked on the door. Come in. Sophie stepped inside. She smiled the moment she saw me. I know we're not supposed to see each other yet. I laughed. I won't tell anyone. She walked closer. You look nervous. I am. Second thoughts. I shook my head immediately. Not even one. She smiled. Good. I looked into her eyes. Are you scared? A little. Why? Because I want today to be perfect. I gently took her hands. It already is. She looked at me quietly. How can you be so sure? Because we're already telling each other the truth. She smiled. I love that answer. So do I. She squeezed my hands. I'll see you in a few minutes. I'll be there. I know. She left the room with one final smile. A few moments later, Noah walked in. Did Sophie just leave? Maybe. He laughed. You two are terrible at following wedding traditions. We'll survive. He adjusted my tie. You know. What? I've been thinking about your first wedding. So have I. He looked at me carefully. I was worried today would bring back bad memories. It did. His smile faded. I'm sorry. I shook my head. Don't be. What do you mean? I remembered that day. And I realized something. What? I wasn't late because I wanted revenge. He stayed quiet. I was late because I needed one final moment to choose myself. Noah smiled proudly. That's the Ethan I know. I laughed softly. Then he checked his watch. Well. What? You'd better hurry. I looked at him. I don't want history repeating itself. I burst into laughter. So that's your biggest concern? Absolutely. I'm already walking. Good. I refuse to let you lecture me forever. He laughed. I probably still will. Together we walked toward the ceremony. As the music began, I took one slow breath. Everything felt calm. No hidden messages. No secret phone calls. No lies waiting behind beautiful smiles. Only honesty. Only peace. The doors opened. Everyone stood. I looked ahead and saw Sophie walking toward me. She looked beautiful. But what moved me most wasn't her dress. It was the way she smiled. There was no fear in her eyes. No guilt. No hesitation. Only love. When she reached me, she whispered, Hi. I smiled. Hi. You came on time. I laughed quietly. I learned my lesson. She smiled. I knew you would. The officiant welcomed everyone before looking at us. We are gathered here today. His words faded into the background. I couldn't stop looking at Sophie. She noticed. What? I was just thinking. About. How lucky I am. She smiled. I was thinking the same thing. The ceremony continued. Finally, it was time for our vows. I took a deep breath. Sophie. She smiled through happy tears. When I met you, I thought my heart had forgotten how to trust. She quietly wiped her eyes. You never asked me to forget my past. She nodded. You simply showed me that my future could be better. I smiled. You taught me that love isn't built through perfect words. I held her hands a little tighter. It's built through honest actions. She whispered, I love you. I love you too. She began her vows. Ethan. I listened carefully. You never promised me a perfect life. I smiled. You promised me an honest one. She laughed softly. And that's worth more than perfection. Everyone smiled. I promised to choose you every day. A tear rolled down my cheek. Not because I have to. She squeezed my hands. But because I want to. The officiant looked at me. Do you accept these vows? I do. He smiled at Sophie. And do you? She looked directly into my eyes. I do. The rings were exchanged. Our hands trembled slightly. Not because of fear. Because of happiness. The officiant smiled warmly. By the authority given to me. Everyone leaned forward. I now pronounce you husband and wife. The room filled with applause. You may kiss the bride. I smiled. So. Sophie laughed. So? I've been waiting all morning. She smiled. Then don't wait anymore. I kissed her. Cheers echoed throughout the room. Noah shouted, Finally! Everyone laughed. As we walked back down the aisle together, I looked around the room. Faces were smiling. People were celebrating. This wedding wasn't built on appearances. It was built on truth. Outside the church, Noah wrapped me in a hug. You made it. I did. And on time. Barely. He laughed. I'll never let you forget that first wedding. You shouldn't. Why? Because without that day. I looked at Sophie standing beside me. I never would have found this one. She slipped her hand into mine. Ready to go? I smiled. More than ever. As we walked toward our future together, I thought about everything that had brought me here. Emily's betrayal, my heartbreak, my silence, my healing. Every painful step had led me to this peaceful moment. I finally understood something that had taken years to learn. My greatest victory was never watching Emily lose everything. My greatest victory was becoming a man whose happiness no longer depended on the person who had betrayed him. I looked at Sophie, smiled, and quietly thought, sometimes the best goodbye isn't spoken in anger. Sometimes it's simply choosing a better future.